Hey everybody, this is Steve, and I wanted to record just a quick video about the HTML CSS exercises, kind of as a cheerleading thing, but mostly to point out some stuff that's probably easier for me to explain in the video stuff than it would be to explain just typing. Okay, so first things first. So far, I think that people have done a pretty good job of getting into these exercises. And what's interesting is that I've already seen the pattern of someone will post a question on the website and then someone will answer the question, which is great. I've also already seen the pattern where people have emailed me, and then before I can even get around to thinking about emailing them back, they email me back again and say, oh, never mind, which is why I usually take a little bit of time to respond to some of these questions. You know, not a lot of time, but some time. And also why, answer each other's questions. So when you get stuck on something, the first thing you should do is post it to the website. If you don't get satisfaction there, email me. And if you still keep trying and you can't get it to work, email me again. I'll help you out. So that's kind of the sort of structure of how these sorts of things work. It makes me think a lot. Well, now, a couple other basic tips. The first tip is that you've got to read the book. You've got to read this. It's because here's the thing. It's all in here. This all works. All the instructions are right there. Okay, I mean it's all there, and so you need to look at the book. If you follow this book, it will work. Simple as that. The second thing is a close corollary to that is read the instructions on the website. If you look under the tab, writing assignments, and then if you look under the tab for HTML, CSS, Zen, flower pot exercises, you'll see my explanation for all the exercises in the book, including some important pieces of information that you'll need in addition to the book to finish it. So read the book, read the website. Now, let me also demonstrate within this movie just a couple of quick things that might help you in making your websites, and I mean making your HTML CSS documents work, but also in making your WordPress sites work out too. So by writing assignments tab, of course, I mean this one right here. And what I mean in terms of the HTML CSS tab is this one right here. And these are the various instructions about recording or making your HTML CSS exercises. Downloading the full code and resources here is really important. And I explain all the various steps of different parts. So for example, how do you get your exercises up to people at English.edu? Well, right here, follow these instructions. Okay, and if you have questions about the instructions after you read them, then let me know. Now, one of the things that I did before, and this is the page I'm setting up your WordPress site, is I set up a version of what these pages should look like. So this is my this is my WordPress portfolio page, and I'm going to come back to this in a second to talk about some things having to do with pages versus posts in a second. But you'll notice that what I have here is I have the HTML, CSS, Zen flowerpot exercises. Then I have a link here to my HTML, CSS exercises on people.english.edu. And when I click that, it opens up my account on people.english.edu /skrause, that's my username, /444. And these are my exercises. Now you've only got done to about this part right here. That's fine. But your pages should look something like that. That is, you should have on your WordPress site some place where you have HTML, CSS, and Zen flowerpot exercises as a page, and then you should have a link to that from there to your people.english.edu pages. Okay. There's one other really important tip on working with HTML and CSS that I want to show you here by virtue of the example of this site, and that is viewing source. The way that I learned how to make web pages way back when is by copying what other people did, and you should do the same thing. I'm looking at this in Chrome, but this works with other browsers as well. There's two ways that you can view source if you want to figure out. So for example, on this page I have, I'm trying some other things. I have a link here to the EMU homepage that opens up in a new tab. and I also have a link to the main page for my people.emich.edu account, which is, you'll notice the address is different. This is outside of the 444 directory, and then when I click on this page, I get back to that. So if you're looking at this thinking, hey, that's pretty cool, I wonder how he did that, what you can do is you can look under View, and then you look under where it says Developer, and you click View Source. And then what you have here is you have the HTML that I use to make this happen. So for example, how did I get it to open up a new window? Well, it's bracket A, target equals, underscore blank, quote, href equals HT, and so forth. Okay, and you can look that up, and you can even go one step further. You can take that text and you could copy it and you could paste it into a new document. It's not cheating. That's the way people make web pages. Okay. Another way that you can view source is if you're on the page like this, if you right click, for me at least right click, you can usually view page source too. Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer, they all allow you to view source too, just in slightly different ways. Let me go back to my WordPress installation. I'm already logged into this, and your dashboard probably looks fairly similar to mine. And I want to talk for a second about the difference between a page and a post. Okay, a post is like a blog post. That is what shows up it is a regular blog post. It's dated, and like blogs, those posts show up in reverse chronological order. Okay, so the most current one is first, then the next one, and so forth. That's really useful if you want to have a blog, but that's not really what we're using WordPress for here. We're using WordPress not so much as a blog, but as a content management system, as a way of organizing a website. So that's why what you want to do is you want to create a page. Okay. Now a new page is a static document that shows up within your site. So for example, on my site, I have all these different kinds of pages. And as you saw before here, this is where I have links to my HTML and CSS Zen Flowerpot exercises. Just to give you a simple example of how this works out in terms of the pages versus posts thing, if you look at our website, just to give you an example of how this works out with our website, these right here, you notice they're dated, right? And it's from a source. These are posts, okay? But the syllabus, the static document that is always present in the menu bar, that's a page, okay? And what you're trying to do with your website, and your website should look something like this, is you're trying to organize a portfolio of work that's going to include the assignments, okay? And it's also going to include a few links, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. While we're here, though, I'll just mention one other thing. You may be wondering, okay, well, how did you get this one set up here, this one page, so that instead of there being blog posts, that you have this constant page? Well, that has to do with how you set up your website in the first place, how you set up your WordPress portfolio page in the first place. And what you want to do is you want to go to your dashboard, and you want to go to Settings, okay, and you want to go to General. And a couple of things here I want to point out. First off, I have the site title, and I also have a tagline, example for my students to follow. What that does, just to sort of save the changes here, and I'll show you what that looks like, and then I'll get to the part I was trying to explain. This is the name of my website, and this is the tagline. So if you have something here that's kind of vague, and then under here you have another cool WordPress site, then you should change that to something that's more customizable to you. Now, as far as the what I was really trying to show you a second ago in terms of like how this is set up, as far as like how it looks to readers to your site. If you go to where it says reading, you'll notice under it says here I can set my front page display either as my latest posts, and that's the default, or I can change it to a static page. And then what I've done is I've created a page called Welcome. These are all pages, not posts, pages on my website in my portfolio, and I've decided that the front page for my portfolio is going to be called Welcome. And then I've also created another page called Latest Updates, which actually is where if I do make posts, that is like blog posts, that's where they show up. So just to give you an idea again of how this looks, this is the way the page works. This is a static page that I created called Welcome. And the latest updates, these are actually, this is an old example of this is where I would write posts. Okay? You should do the same thing. You should do something like that. So your site, ultimately, by the end of the class, needs to look a lot like my site. Okay, there you have it. There are a lot of tips, a lot of information there, but hopefully it's all stuff that's useful as you are wrestling with your HTML and CSS exercises. Uh, Two last tips, suggestions, ideas, things to think about as you're working through these exercises. The first one I already talked about, which is the instructions. But one of the things I guess that is I want to emphasize about that is when I say follow the instructions, I mean follow the instructions exactly. No, this is not an opportunity to sort of say, well, what if I change this or change that or whatever. And it's hard because in English studies and writing, we tend to sort of go along with the close enough philosophy. You have your interpretation of what The Great Gatsby is about. I have my interpretation of The Great Gatsby is about. We can both be right. When it comes to this sort of stuff, that's not the case. It's either right or it's not. And this is a second a related corollary to that first thing about follow the instructions and things like that. If something doesn't work, you almost certainly did something wrong. Now, I'm not saying it to be mean or anything. I'm just saying that I know that these exercises work, and I also know that all it takes is one comma or one less than greater than symbol or one number out of place, and the whole thing goes to hell. So if you don't get a result that you thought you should be getting, step back and retrace your work, because 8 times out of 10, maybe even 9 times out of 10, you'll find that error. The last thing, this is my last tip, is when you work through these exercises, you need a happy place. Now, what I mean by this is that these can be pretty frustrating, and it can drive you crazy working with these things. So before you start saying, "Ah!" breathe deep. I always forget if I'm supposed to inhale with my nose or exhale with my mouth, or both, or neither. I can't remember. But the point is take a time out, calm down, breathe deeply, meditate, and then go back to it. Because it can get really frustrating if you don't have a happy place. So, make sure you have a happy place. Okay, lots of information here. I hope it's helpful. See you online.